A Dog Called Houdini Chapter 8. Red O'Malley was a loner. His one friend, Alty McGregor, lived 4 blocks away. That's where he headed now. He heard and saw boys playing street hockey on Purvis Street, but he did not try to join them. In fact, he went down a back street to avoid them, though they probably wouldn't have asked him to play even if he had gone and stood right at the edge of the game. Red did not like team sports. Skating he could tolerate, but hockey he hated. What made it bad was that Red knew his father wanted him to play hockey the way all the other boys in town did. O'Malley somehow felt Red had let him down because he didn't. All the other men boasted about their sons, but he had nothing to brag about in return. Red was not in love with baseball either, although he played it at school each spring when his teacher took the class out to the ball diamond. All through the year he played team sports, but only at school, only when he had to. There were 2 sports he truly loved though, fishing and hunting. Fishing he could do from the town dock, and he knew all the good spots in the creek and river which flowed through the town. But he was not old enough to go hunting by himself. He would have loved to go along with his father when he went to hunt deer and moose each year, but his father never took him. Red had never even seen his father fire a gun. If only he had a dog, it wouldn't be so bad. Then he would have company on his long hikes through the woods. If he had a dog, he could train it to track and fetch. Red sighed. Lots of boys had a dog, but not the dog catcher's son. He knocked on Alty's door. Alty's sister answered. She was a nice girl with curly dark hair and lots of color in her cheeks. Polite, smiling. Alty was not home, she said. He had gone to the next town with his father. They would be back around nightfall. Do you want to wait? The Flintstones are on. No thanks, Margaret. I'll come back later. Are you sure? Yeah, or I'll phone Alty tonight. Red moved away fast. That was crazy. He couldn't go downstairs and watch TV with Alty's sister. His cheeks were flushed and he felt warm. She sure had a nice smile though. He hesitated. Alty was not home, but he could. Instead he would. He heard the snowmobiles buzzing along the golf course on the edge of town. He would take a look. The sun was gone, but there would be time enough. He certainly did not want to go back to his house just yet. He wished he had a brother or sister like Margaret. Or, if he had a dog, they could be out here walking along, doing nothing together. As he neared the golf course, the rat-tat of the machines grew louder, and he could see them skimming atop the snow, riding the bumps as a boat does a wave. He saw the snow powder churn beneath their tracks, and he saw the scarves of the riders fly in the wind behind them. Standing aside, he watched, fascinated. He took shelter from the wind in the lee of an old cabin which had once belonged to a trapper. That was before the town had grown outwards, and before the golf course had been hacked out of the forest. But the cabin still stood, durable and almost eternal, its chimney jutting up above its rotting shingled roof. One of its windows was broken, shattered by the bullet of an unsuccessful hunter. There was a door, but it was not locked, and Red went inside. No one had done any damage here. A wooden table lay on its side, and an old hat hung from a nail beside the door. There was a wooden poster bed, a stone fireplace, shelves, and a wood box. Red went to the broken window and looked out, watching the snowmobiles. They were fast. They had power. They could maneuver. He wished he could have a fast ride on one, but he didn't know any of the drivers well enough to ask them for one. Not all of the machines were skimming along at top speed. One was moving slower, It was a father giving his children a ride. One child rode on the machine behind his father, while two more sat in a sleigh that he was pulling. It reminded Red of the ducks that swam just ahead of the ducklings in early spring. The light was fading fast. Suddenly, Billy Wren emerged from the woods. He was pulling a Christmas tree on a sled. It was a lovely tree, and it gave Red an idea. Why not take home a tree himself? Taking home a tree would be a good idea. It would please his mother and give him an excuse for going home a bit late. Quickly, he left the cabin, closing the door carefully behind him. Countless times in the spring and summer, he had taken home fish, rainbow or speckled trout, or delicious pickerel. Something for the larder never failed to please his mother. Usually she forgot even to ask him where he had been. In the winter months he often brought home rabbits which he snared. But now it was time for a Christmas tree. He spotted the axe that Billy had used to cut his tree. "Nice tree, Billy," he said. "Not bad," Billy responded. He was wearing a parka jacket and his ears were covered by the flaps of his cap. His trouser legs were tucked snugly into heavy, snow-covered snowmobile boots. "What are you doing out here?" "Oh, nothing. Came to get a tree too, but forgot to bring an axe." Billy agreed to lend him his. "I know where there's another good one," he said. "Come on, I'll show ya." "Thanks," Red said. Leaving his tree behind, Billy led the way into the snow-deep forest where every tree, large and small, held large lumps of snow in its branches. Here there was only silence. Even the noise of the snowmobiles barely penetrated. Soon they returned with Red's tree on the sled. They strapped Billy's on top of it, and together they pulled the heavy sled home. Dusk was now darkening the hills, but the snow reflected so much light that out in the open Red could see easily. The riders still raced about on their snowmobiles. The boys' boots crunched on the packed snow on the trail. Then the lights of the town began to greet them, twinkling in the gathering darkness. The added decorations of colored lights, which hung along eaves and gable ends, glittered cheerfully. They reached Billy's house first, and he unloaded his tree and lent Red his sled to take the second tree home. Red would return it tomorrow. He made for home, but when he got to Alty's house, he noticed Mr. McGregor's pickup truck in the driveway. Alty was back. It was now full dark, but who said that he couldn't pop in for a while and see Alty? He would see Margaret too, and get another of her smiles. He was feeling cold, and Margaret and Alty's house always seemed warmer than home. It was Margaret who got to the door again. "He's in the basement," she said. "Come on in. Look at all that snow on you." This was her polite way of telling Red he needed to brush the loose snow off his clothing. He used the broom that was left in the porch for just such a reason, and took off his snowy boots. Alty was in the basement and there on the floor. Lying on its back and kicking four legs at Alty's fingers and growling puppy growls was one of the finest pups Red had ever seen. "Hi, Red," Alty said, looking up. "What's that?" Red asked. Alty grinned. "It's a puppy. Got him this afternoon. Pop bought him. Isn't he cute?" Red just stared. "He's yours?" he asked at last. "All yours?" "Uh-huh, a pre-Christmas present." Red was silent. What wouldn't he give for a pup like that? He felt jealousy flooding through him, a fierce longing for a pup of his own. He couldn't stay here any longer. "Gotta run," he said. "Don't you want to pet him?" Alty asked. "Not tonight, Alty. I'm late. Tomorrow maybe." "I'm calling him Samson," said Alty, grabbing a small front paw. "Yeah, nice name. Gotta run now. See you, Alty. See you, Margaret." He had completely forgotten about her until now. "See you," they both said. Red pulled the sled home swiftly, his breath smoking in front of him. It was quite dark when he got there. "Where have you been, Red?" his mother asked. "Good grief, boy." "When they get a tree, Mom, that's all." He lifted the tree into the house, dragging it down to the basement where the snow on the needles and branches would melt before they put it up. She followed him down and watched him lean it up in a corner. She was pleased, just as he had hoped. "It's a good tree," she said. "You must have been far." "Yeah," he said. "You hungry?" she asked. "Not much," he replied. That pup Samson had taken away his hunger for food. "Where's Pop?" he asked. Turning her eyes up, she said, "Watching TV." He could hear the set and the excitement in the announcer's voice. It was hockey night in Canada. Philadelphia Flyers versus Toronto in Maple Leaf Gardens. Pop would be glued to the set. He was a Toronto fan. Red could have stayed out a couple of hours later and he wouldn't have been scolded. Not when Pop watched hockey. Red had to ask, "Why can't I have a dog, Mom?" "You heard what your father said." "But he doesn't say anything. All he says is no." "He's a dog catcher, Red. How would it look if a dog from his house begins to run loose?" "But it won't. I wouldn't let it." "Come on, supper's on the table." They climbed out of the basement and Red ate supper while he thought of the exact words he would say to his father. After supper, he was all ready. He waited for a commercial. "Pop," he said, "guess what I want for Christmas?" "What?" his father asked, puffing on his pipe. He was in a mellow mood. Toronto had just scored. "A pup." "No way." "Lots of boys have dogs." "Nope." "Altie has a pup. He just got it for Christmas. His dad bought it for him." "No dogs in this house," his father said. "Aw, Pop, I wouldn't let it run loose. It wouldn't embarrass you." "Enough, boy." The game had resumed. Red knew it was useless. In frustration, he stormed to his room. He too was a fan of Houdini's. He too had drawn the dog many times, but he had kept the pictures hidden in a box in his closet. He did not work at them in the house or even look at them there, out of respect for his father. But he was angry enough now to be reckless. He took them from the box and unfolded them, then taped them to the walls beside the other pictures already there. Pictures of racing cars that he had drawn and colored. Pictures of fish he had cut from magazines. Pictures of 2 huskies and an Arctic wolf. Satisfied, he lay flat on his stomach on the bed, kicking his feet, first the left and then the right. Let him come, he thought defiantly. Let Pop come and see that his own son was a fan of Houdini. But it was his mother who came upstairs to check on him, for she felt his deep frustration, his sadness, his loneliness. "What are you doing?" Nothing, just lying here." "Someday you'll have a dog." "When? When I grow up and it doesn't matter anymore?" he asked harshly. "Don't talk to me like that, son." "Sorry, Mom." It was not her fault. When she turned to go, she saw the pictures. The wonder dog stood on hind legs and beat a lion-like chest with boxing-gloved front paws. Bold letters in alternating colors of red and green said Houdini. "Red, what's this? Do you want your father to skin you alive?" He might as well, Red thought, but his mother thought otherwise, and with frantic fingers she peeled the drawings off the wall. "Hide them, boy! Destroy them! What in the world made you do that?" "He's my hero, Mom." "A dog? A dog is your hero?" "He's everybody's." "But he makes fun of your dad. He torments your own father." "Mom," Red said, sitting up, eager to make her understand. "He's a wonder dog." "No kidding, the best. I wish I had a dog like that." As though she expected her husband to come barging in at any moment, his mother kept an eye on the door. "You destroy these tomorrow," she said, holding out the pictures, "and never bring them into this house again." But Red would not promise. "Then I'll destroy them." Mrs. O'Malley slipped them inside her blouse. "You should have more consideration for your father," she said sternly. "Of all the dogs in this town, you have to draw pictures of that one. But his days are numbered." That made Red glance sharply at her. "How?" was all he asked. "Your dad has what will fix him. It's just a matter of time now." "What has he got?" "Tranquilizers, that's what. They'll knock him out. Then he'll be captured and this whole disgrace will end." "Oh no," Red whispered. "Whose side are you on, Red?" "It's not fair," Red said. "Can't you see, Mom? Houdini has never done any harm." She left the room then. She hated to upset him, but the sooner he got that dog out of his heart, the better. Red went to bed, but slept little that night. Chapter 9. Caught. It was Christmas week, and the town was getting ready for the festivities. Fathers and sons plunged into the woods that ringed the town and returned pulling Christmas trees and sleds. House eaves were trimmed with colored lights, and so were the evergreens that stood on front lawns. The lawns had another kind of decoration. Snowmen with carrot noses and scars around their necks. Some children built forts. The snowdrifts were sand dune high and lay white and pure as cirrus clouds. The only dirty spots were where the graders had pushed the snow back from the roadway. There, gravel and dirt lay embedded in the banks. Where salt had been scattered, it had eaten holes in the ice until the roads resembled honeycombs. But the fields were untouched. Beneath the trees were 2-meter depths of snow, marked only by the pattering feet of rabbits and the silent paws of predators. The stores were decorated with tinsel, paper bells, and balloons. Business was brisk. Toddlers' eyes sparkled as they guessed what was hidden in the packages their parents brought home. In a special place in refrigerators, huge Christmas turkeys lay waiting. Mothers were baking. Loggers who stayed a week at a time in the bush camps began to arrive in town early. They would not work again for several days. Spirits in the town began to lift. After all, Christmas is special, a time when people willingly forget grudges, forgive wrongs, and smile at strangers. In the festive spirit that prevailed in the town, Houdini was all but forgotten, but everyone except one person, Dog Control Officer O'Malley. He had obtained the tranquilizer and had given it one try already, but had failed in his attempt to capture the dog. He had thought that Houdini, a hungry stray, would gobble up any food offered to him, but he was wrong. He had put the drug in some leftover soup, but the dog had merely stopped, sniffed it, and walked on. He had just had a mess of bones behind one of the food stores and a couple of handouts from secret food dishes, and was much too full to try O'Malley's unappetizing dish. The dog catcher, who had been watching from his kitchen window, was furious when he saw the dog reject the drugged food. "That devil," he growled. "Too good to eat soup, is he? I'll teach him." And he stamped his foot so hard that the crockery in the cupboards rattled. Suddenly he was struck with a new fear. What if the dog could smell the tranquilizer and refuse to eat the bait? That night he could not sleep, and he arose from bed short-tempered and irritable. He suspected he was going to have a rotten Christmas, But he wouldn't give up, not just yet. From the woods, he brought in 2 freshly snared rabbits. He hung them in the basement so they would thaw. Then he cleaned them and cut them up. No more scraps for Houdini. Tonight he would dine on rabbit stew prepared especially for him. O'Malley made the rabbit stew himself on the stove in the room where he skinned and stretched pelts. When it had cooled, he doped it and set it out in the backyard, back against the fence, so that Houdini would find it without any trouble. Then he would keep watch. If another dog stumbled on the rich food, he would be there to chase him away. If Houdini gulped it down, he would be there to get him. So he waited. Houdini did come by, stepping briskly, his tail held high, the king of dogs. From the Canadian Pacific rails, he smelled the rabbit stew when he paused to test the air. One sniff told him where the delicious smell came from. When he spied the dish, he broke into a trot and headed straight for it. As though he sensed something was wrong, he walked around the bait twice, but he couldn't resist it. He had not yet made his dinner rounds. He was hungry, and this smelled too good to walk away from. Somewhere he had smelled this aroma before. Somewhere he had tasted rabbit. Yes, that old man, the one who had owned him, Old Man Wraith. He used to cook the stuff, delicious stuff. And after that, after the old man had gone away, he, Houdini, had caught himself some of that meat. Yes, he remembered. He dug in. "Hallelujah!" cried O'Malley, and squeezed his fists together. He was smiling broadly. His wife, who had been watching with him, was happy for him. "Rodney," she said, "at last." He kissed her quickly, a rare deed for him. He even danced around the kitchen. Then abruptly he said, "I've got a work to do. I've got to get him." Quickly he pulled on his muclucs. Houdini ate ravenously and licked the bowl clean. Then he turned towards the tracks. But when he tried to go up the slope, he found that he could not. His legs would not obey him. They did not even want to hold him up. And his eyes, they were dimming. The surroundings got suddenly darker. Faintly, he heard O'Malley slam the porch door behind him. He turned and in a blur saw his enemy, the man, coming nearer. So he was the one. Houdini barked once, faintly. He tried to get away. Since he could not go up the slope, he took the easier way. He ran blindly in another direction, between some buildings, then onto a street. O'Malley gave chase. Thanks to the dog's drugged condition, the dog catcher was gaining rapidly. It seemed that he was going to lay hands on Houdini any moment, when suddenly the dog turned a corner and vanished. O'Malley began to search for him behind the garbage cans and garages in the back lane, into which he had seen Houdini turn. But the dog was no longer in the vicinity. He had slipped down a side passage and was already on the next street, running blindly, stumbling. That was when the car hit him. Red O'Malley was standing right there when it happened. He was on top of a high grader-made snowbank on Marks Road, poised on the skis his parents had given him for Christmas the year before. He was waiting for the oncoming car to go by so he could ski down and across the road. From where he stood, he saw Houdini come stumbling across the street, right into the path of the car. "Houdini!" Red yelled. "Look out!" But the dog could no longer hear or see anything. He was already asleep on his legs. There was a thumping sound as the bumper sent him sprawling into the snow at Red's feet. The car skidded out of control and spun into the snowbank about 10 meters up the street. Houdini did not utter a sound. Red thought he was dead, but he knelt quickly and felt the dog for a sign of life. Houdini was breathing. 2 men got out of the car. "Did I kill him?" one asked. You couldn't help it, the other said. Dog ran right out into the road. They saw Red bending over the dog. Is he dead, kid? No, Red said. The dog yours? Yes, Red lied. Think I'll give the kid a couple bucks, Ossie? What the heck, it's Christmas. Dogs have no right on the streets, Ossie said. There's a bylaw about dogs running loose. Red's mind was working fast now. He remembered his father and the tranquilizers. That explained Houdini's slow and stumbling gait. If the dog were doped, wouldn't it mean that his father was just behind? If he were to save Houdini, he had better get the dog out of there. He was lucky no one was on the street except the two men who had been riding in the car. They were now busy trying to get the vehicle dislodged from the snowbank. One was revving the engine while the other pushed. The black wheels spun ineffectively on the ice. Red tried to lift the drugged and wounded dog, but he could not. The dead weight was too much for him. But he could drag him easily on the snow. This he did, and not a moment too soon. For just as he had pulled the dog over the summit of the snowbank and onto the other side out of sight, his father arrived, hot on Houdini's tail. Where could he be? O'Malley asked himself. Vanished just like that? Impossible! Red thought furiously. He could not escape with Houdini, but he could hide him. He took off his jacket and covered the dog, and then he dug the snow with his mittened hands. Soon he had heaped enough of it to cover the dog completely. The snow was light and flaky. Houdini would not suffocate. It was best to clear out of the area, so Red took off on his skis and went home fast. It was dark when he got there. From the streets, his house looked Christmassy and pretty with lights blinking on and off along the eaves. Through the picture window, he could see the tree he and his mother had decorated, the tinsel glistening in the light. When he opened the door, his mother turned quickly. Rodney, she called. It's me, Mom, Red said. She had hoped it would be her husband with the drugged dog, but it was only Red. Did you see your father? Nah, he lied. Maybe the drug didn't work, she thought. She feared for her husband. If the tranquilizer failed him, what would he do? She put Red's supper on the table, and the boy ate quickly. When the telephone rang, Mrs. O'Malley dashed to it. It was Mayor Frederick. Yes, Mayor, the dog gulped down the drugged food. Yes, Mayor. Yes. Rodney's out now following him, waiting for him to... You know, Mayor, it's not Rodney's fault. Yes, I'll tell him to call. While his mother was on the phone, Red took the opportunity to grab some food. From the freezer in the basement, he took ground moose meat, a moose steak and a whole rabbit. He stuffed the food into a backpack that he used whenever he went fishing, and slipped back in his supper before his mother re-entered the kitchen. You must be very hungry to eat so fast, she said when she saw Red's plate was empty. She didn't realize he had been down to the basement as well. Do you want some more? No, thanks, he answered, although he was still hungry. She returned to the living room and kept a lookout through the window. While she was busy, Red hurried around getting the rest of things he would need. His fishing knife, rags for bandages if Houdini had cuts, and a strip of veneer for splints just in case the dog had broken bones. He also took a book of matches, an axe and a hatchet, an old saucepan and a sleeping bag. While his mother kept watch, Red slipped out the back door, wearing his heavy old parka jacket, and piled everything on his toboggan. He left none too soon, for as he went quietly through the back gate, he saw his father coming up the driveway, without Houdini. Mrs. O'Malley opened the door for her husband. Where is he? She asked. Got away, he snapped. But he can't have got away. It was not like her to be so excited. "Beat me how he did." His voice was subdued, defeated. Removing his muclucs in the kitchen, he kicked them out of the way and sat down. His shoulders slumped, his head bowed, a beaten man. "Funny business," he said. "He was drugged all right, running blindly. Got hit by a car, they told me. Boy was seen standing over him. Then both he and the boy disappeared, like a couple of ghosts." "A boy?" "Where's Red?" he asked. "He home yet?" "Yes, he just had supper." "Red?" "Red, Red." She called for Red. When Red did not answer, she went looking for him in the annex. He was not there, not in the basement, not in his room. In fact, he was not in the house. "Rodney," she said, coming back into the kitchen, "he's gone." His head snapped up and his face grew stern. "Gone?" "What's wrong?" Mrs. O'Malley asked. Then she understood. "You mean Red could be the boy they saw standing over the dog?" "Oh no, he wouldn't do that to his own father." "I'll skin him alive," O'Malley roared, jumping up. "He has that dog hidden. Now he's gone to look after him." Furious, he quickly pulled on and laced up his muclucs. "The mayor wants you to call him." "Not now. He can wait. I do the dirty work while he sits at home with his family, while my family turns on me." He stamped out. Red hurried along the deserted streets. All the business establishments shut up tight at 6 o'clock on Christmas Eve, and everybody was home. He had no fear of being seen. He found Houdini still unconscious but breathing. Quickly, he pulled him onto the toboggan, strapped him down, and set out without losing a second. He headed out of town, dragging his burden behind him. He needed shelter. It was about 20 below zero. The old trapper's cabin out by the golf course would do for the night. As the lights dimmed behind him, so did the voices of some carolers who were walking through the town, singing in front of houses, singing Silent Night. End of chapter 9.